A very good morning to you. It's been a very busy weekend of sport and we're covering it all over the roughly next 2 hours or so. We're here with you until 9:30 this morning. As ever, if you want to get involved, if you've got an opinion you'd like to get off your chest, we're on a YouTube stream. You can drop a comment on the bottom there. You can also get us on Twitter @OffTheBall or @OffTheBallAM. Just use the hashtag OTBAM and we'll pick it up for you. Eoin is here. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Happy birthday to Declan Rice, who turns 20.
Yeah, the big one, the big 2-0 for him today. A big birthday, a big decision to be made, Declan. I'm sure he knows about that coming down the tracks.
Happy birthday to all of Munster fans for the gift that Leinster gave them in Joey Carbery.
Well, the gift of life, I think, is what Joey Carbery's given to a lot of people. I think, all things considered, the absolute correct decision for sports fans, for rugby fans, for humanity in general, really.
And happy birthday to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I got the Man United job at the weekend.
Is it his birthday today?
No, just made it up.
Oh, okay. Well, happy birthday to you, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If that's earlier, that's late, whatever it may be. It did seem it was the battle for the hot seat at Old Trafford there yesterday, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's prize is to become the permanent manager.
I never wanted lip readers more than that bit when he's actually, Pochettino comes over, like Solskjaer has his back to him. Pochettino taps him on the back. Solskjaer sees who it is and goes in for an embrace, and then grabs him again for another word. What was that other word?
Don't you dare touch my job.
Well, I was like,
stay the hell away from Old Trafford, Maurizio.
How do you like them apples?
Don't you dare try and stab me in the back. I know what job you're after, Maurizio, and it's mine. Like I do like to think that everything Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is absolutely horrible, and everything he says is disgusting, and that when they say he's a baby-faced assassin, he really is. Like that cute pic of Marcus Rashford saying, tell us the cool stories from 99 on Instagram. It was actually Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sitting them down telling them that they're all shit and that they need to really up their game. That's what I really hope, that underneath the surface of it all, that he's actually just spitting poison all the time. So that's what I think he said to Pochettino yesterday.
Was that the most excited you've been watching Man United game as an Arsenal fan in your life?
Yeah, without question. It was absorbing. It was the most excited I've been watching. Yeah, as any neutral observer in a Premier League game this season, that was right up there as a game that you're just sucked into and couldn't look away from.
I think it's a Rorschach test for football fans as well. Whether or not you were like, De Gea wasn't actually that good. They kept shooting it straight at him, or if you're like, that's one of the most amazing psych outs from a goalkeeper of an entire football team against world-class opposition that you're ever going to see. The fact that they were kicking it straight at him was because it's David De Gea. Mm-hmm. It's like, what am I going to do? There's nowhere I can put this that it's going to go in. I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah, like sometimes David De Gea...
that was straight at him. He didn't even have to work for that one. He's just diving for the cameras. Loads of people. Each individual one on its own, not brilliant. Collectively, one of the greatest performances by an individual in a team sport that you're ever going to see.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure if David De Gea definitely has 4 limbs.
We had a poll there. So Spurs and Man United won. I'll read this out for those. And also I can tell you, if you don't actually want to look at our haggard faces of a morning, then you can just listen to this as a radio show on offtheball.com. Hit the listen live now. It's the big button at the top. It's throbbing at the top of the website. You can't miss it. Huge win for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Post-match analysis live with Brian Kerr and Off the Ball right now. So that was from yesterday. Vote. Did they deserve it? Tactics spot on. 26%. Blessed. De Gea 10 plus saves. 16%. Who cares? Smash and grab. 18%.
Well, we can see Tommy on the Off the Ball account has voted for who cares? Smash and grab there. So we can get his own personal opinion on that one. David De Gea, the revisionism over who is the best goalkeeper in the world was in full flow there yesterday. Listening to Nathan in commentary saying there's no question that the debate has been around Ederson and Alisson as the best goalkeeper, but there's no question that David De Gea is the best shot stopper, and then 10 minutes later it was David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the world, full stop. And it does come down to the idea of, does his shot stopping prowess, and he is the best shot stopper in the Premier League, make him the best goalkeeper in the world, or is the renewed vision of sweeper keeping and the importance of a ball playing goalkeeper push him down the rungs in the ladder a small bit? Well, I'm not so sure. I think David De Gea is unparalleled when it comes to putting in a show-stopping performance like that. He did it against Arsenal around Christmas time last year as well. He just has the ability to pull these out of the bag. And
I do think that he psychs the opposition out.
Yeah,
though.
I think there's truth in that.
Like, I really feel like this isn't, and I think this is the same Rorschach test for Jacob Stockdale. It's like, that guy's very lucky a lot. Again and 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 again. Stockdale also, like, just with a whiff, with his Jedi mind trick, forcing defenders to go completely the wrong way and the ball bouncing into his hands. There was no way he should have scored that try the other day.
No.
He was like, he's just kicking this now because it looks like, what? No way! It made no sense.
It's kind of, when he does the kick, it's like, come on now, Jacob.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
like,
put it away.
We've seen you do it a couple of times before. You're not going to be able to do it again.
It's ridiculous.
The most remarkable thing about that Jacob Stockdale performance was the one that didn't bounce his way. When he was in and there was...
First half.
In the first half. And there wasn't three Racing defenders racing back. And it was just him. And all he had to do was get down on top of the ball, and then it didn't bounce his way. It was like that was the most un-Jacob Stockdale thing I've ever seen. So I was not surprised to see that the ball bounced his way and the three Racing men get completely befuddled by what actually happened there.
Mark Shields is online on YouTube, I think, saying Stockdale must be the best winger in world rugby. He's not bad. He's definitely not bad. And remember, this is very early on in his career. Like, his pace is important to him, but it's not the only thing he's got. It's not like he's going to lose his pace. You know, he's going to add defensive skills. He's also going to add even better. So he was lucky with the intercept try against Wales last year. He was lucky with the way the ball bounced against. He's lucky a lot for somebody who actually probably is not that lucky at all and just works very hard.
Well, I think the fact that, we speak about one babyface assassin in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think he's even more baby-faced and he's even more cold-blooded. Like, he just smiles and then he hurts you very, very badly. And it's great that, I guess, in the general Irish sense of things, he is on our side, because when it comes to just a ruthless try scorer in world rugby at the moment, he's right up there. In European rugby, it's hard to put anybody at that level at the moment. When it comes to just pure try scoring ability, in the world, you've now got to start talking about him in that manner. Of course, he's got to do it for the next couple of seasons before he actually starts saying that, and in the World Cup this year.
Well, last Thursday, the Times Ireland did a piece, are we over-reliant on Jacob Stockdale? I'm like, nah, it's no big deal, it's fine, anybody can do what he's been doing. And then it's like, actually, maybe, you know what, maybe if he keeps doing this stuff, then maybe we are a little bit reliant on him. Sean Troy is saying this weekend's NFL wasn't great compared to last. We'll speak with Mike Carlson a little bit later on. I think it's great if you were a Tom Brady fan. Not so great if you were one of those people who'd written Tom Brady off.
Yeah, obviously American football, one of the greatest sports out there. Some would say it is the greatest sport out there. And when you get the announcers in American football referring to any other sport, you know for a fact that it is one of the best sports in the world. So on Saturday night, when I heard Al Michaels' query, is Patrick Mahomes, how good a darts player would Patrick Mahomes be? I sat there and I was proud in my take that darts is a sport. And I'm sure you kind of gave up the act at that point and said, no, darts is a real sport. It's not just a game, because it's being referred to on one of the biggest stages of all. That the NFL announcers would actually stop talking about American football and start talking about darts. But that, he says it wasn't as exciting as a weekend as last weekend. Probably truth in that, in fact, in the sense that there wasn't any major cock-up from a kicker, wasn't any icing of the kicker, drama like that. But seeing the performance of Mahomes on Saturday night and just seeing Tom Brady in full flow last night is excitement enough for me.
We are obviously up relatively early on a Monday morning, so I didn't see the end of the Eagles-Saints game, but apparently the Saints were amazing in that second half, and there was a bit of drama there in that one. I don't know. It means you've got the four best teams left, though.
Yes.
And they're all playing pretty well.
And the chance of the Rams against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, which I think we all want to see.
Yeah. There's beef between the Rams and the Saints. The Saints killed them the last time. And Michael Thomas was up against, I just remembered the name 2 seconds ago, against their cornerback who they signed from the Kansas City Chiefs. His name I've literally just forgotten. But scorched him for 212 yards and a touchdown. And afterwards, the head coach Sean Payton was like, yeah, we like that matchup. We really, really liked that matchup. It was 1-on-1 the whole day. It was great. It's Marcus Peters. So Marcus Peters afterwards is like, yeah, I'm really happy to get back, get an opportunity, have a bowl of gumbo with Sean Payton. Let him keep talking shit. I like that shit he was talking. So we'll see. It's all set up. There's beef matches with beefs between cornerbacks and
it's like Richard Sherman-esque.
Wide receivers. Yeah. Because now he's got to back it up. Anyway, Eoin has a very important message on behalf of everybody who wears red.
No, not at all. I think it's just an open letter that I kind of penned on behalf of rugby people, as I said at the top of the show, sports people, I think people that like happy things in general, good things in general, because, sometimes you watch a game of rugby and humanity just gets it right. So first of all, to everyone at Auckland for initially recognising the talent of Joey Carbery that would be so suited to the red of Munster. A very big thank you to you. To the Carbery family for bringing those talents back to Ireland. A very big thank you to you this Monday morning. To those at Blackrock College for doing whatever schools do to make rugby players good enough to play for a legendary province such as Munster. Thank you very much this morning. To Clontarf and to all those people he played with and against in the AIL, preparing him with the required grit to play for the grittiest province of them all, which is Munster. A very big thank you to you this morning. To those at Leinster for bringing him into the fold, knowing that one day he would simply have to go on to better things, like playing for Munster. A big thank you to you this morning. To Joe Schmidt, I guess we got to give him a big thank you. Thank you for being in a situation where he needed Joey Carbery to be Ireland's next great hope at out half. Thank you, Joe Schmidt. To those at Leinster, especially those at Leinster who thought he was a fullback, thank you. To David Nucifora, the IRFU as a whole, for realising that he was not a fullback. And to hone his talents at number 10, he would need to go on to a better province, to go on to a better situation and a better culture. A very big thank you to you. So thank you, David Nucifora and the IRFU. And finally, to Johan van Gran and all at Munster for putting him on the right path, the correct path, the chosen path to wear the iconic number 10 red jersey. A very big thank you to you. On behalf of all those people who like sport, who like rugby and who like nice things in general, you've made the correct call. And just thank you, really. I'm feeling very, very thankful this morning. It's like Irish Thanksgiving Day.
You're a prick.
I'm just speaking the truth here.
Did you miss something?
Did I miss something? No.
Yeah,
No.
like one of the most important parts of his entire...
Oh, sorry. Thank you to Gilroy for getting him out of Leinster.
The town of Athy. He only played for Blackrock for 1 year.
Well,
Come on.
A very happy Monday morning to everybody at Athy. Thank you for setting Joey Carbery on the right path. He has now achieved his goal. The next 15 years are going to be beautiful with him playing in the red of Munster and wearing that number 10 jersey. Majestic on Friday night and the correct call all round.
It's great that he's getting a little bit of experience before he boomerangs back to Leinster in 2 years' time to replace Johnny Sexton after the Lions tour. It's great. It's good that you're able to play your role as a feeder school, basically, for Leinster.
Did you see the smile on his face on Friday night, the kind of coy response to the interviewer asking how good was your own performance? It's good that the team is getting on track here. And do you think someone like Peter O'Mahony will ever let him leave? He's in the Munster clutches now. He hears the Thomond roar. Do you think the people at Thomond Park will let him leave? He's hypnotised now.
We'll see. So Declan Rice scored his first senior goal in professional football at the weekend. He is 20 years old today. There's just one thing left for him to decide.
I think it would have been better for us if he scored an OG yesterday and Arsenal won the match and West Ham didn't look very good and he had an average game and people were talking about the great performance of Emery's team against a weak looking West Ham team lacking any presence in midfield. Instead they are talking about the presence of this young boy in the middle of the field.
Yeah, turns out he's really good. Here's what's coming up. I'm going to talk with Mike Carlson around about 9:05. We've got Alan Quinlan in around about 8:35. I'm going to talk from Seamus Coleman. He has been speaking with Stephen Doyle in the aftermath of a return to form for him and for Everton, really, with their 2-0 win yesterday. That game was live on News Talk. Stephen Doyle was on commentary alongside Kevin Caban for that one. And Daniel Harris is going to join us in about 10 minutes' time to talk to us about the excitement around Old Trafford at the moment, the possibility that Gareth Southgate might be the next, or at least be considered to be the next Manchester United manager. And we'll talk about everything else that's gone on over the weekend as well. I'm going to start with the sports pages, though, first. So... Solskjaer seizes his chance. That's it. So, the games at Wembley are really good. Like, when they're big games and the crowd is full and the Spurs fans are chanting and it's corner after corner after corner after corner for Spurs, they're great.
I always thought it was just me that thought about the venue of a game that actually has material impact on a game of football. As in, it doesn't really, but when a game is good, it's enhanced by the fact that it's Wembley. One of the grounds that does it the opposite way around is Stamford Bridge, where you're watching a crap game at Stamford Bridge and you're like, this thing feels tiny. It's just like a matchbox. Whereas at Wembley, when a game is good, it's like, this looks like the Sahara Desert here. It's just gigantic out there. And it definitely felt like that yesterday. Like it was, when you talk about Solskjaer seizing his chance, and you talk about David De Gea as well in that context, there's a lot of people this morning who could potentially point out the fact that Manchester United were relatively lucky yesterday, and they were at times, but you can similarly admit that they were lucky. You can similarly admit that David De Gea is potentially the world's greatest goalkeeper, while also admitting that Solskjaer got it right in a number of areas and has been getting it right for a number of weeks now. The first real test has been passed.
Oh, it's this...
With flying colours.
Yeah, and I do think the venue matters, though. When Winks, when there's like that interchange and Winks doesn't square the ball back to the penalty spot but squares it across goal, like... in a normal venue, that doesn't feel like it's a big moment in a game. It's like, okay, that's just a missed opportunity. Maybe it does, I don't know. It just felt like, ooh, this is Wembley. That's big. This is like there's a bang of a cup match off this.
Yeah.
In a way that there hasn't been off the rest of the league games. Times Ireland edition this morning, De Gea helped Solskjaer to make history. So first Manchester United manager to win 6 in a row since... First ever. McCarthy and bid to tempt English pair. This is going to be interesting to see what the response is like, right? So, Nathan Redmond, the hunt for Nathan Redmond has been on, and it hasn't really everybody's a bit like just holding their nose until that passes and it disappears. But if you're Mick McCarthy, your job is to win games and try and get a new job after this. And if Nathan Redmond's going to help you to do that, then you don't really care about the vagaries of international rules or what Irish identity means, do you? It's like, I've got to win. My job is to win. I'm going to do what I can. If that guy comes in and plays well for us, scores 3 goals, he's our best player.
Yeah.
If that guy comes in, doesn't do anything, what have I lost? 3 caps gone to somebody who doesn't deserve them.
Yeah, it's true. It like that does suggest that the short term.
If you're Mick McCarthy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, there's no question about that. Like, are we really going to be that despondent if Nathan Redmond gets an Ireland cap?
I'd say some people will be. Yeah, I mean,
I would definitely feel that the despondency will be enhanced if Nathan Redmond comes into the Ireland squad and flops.
Yeah, I mean, but if he comes in and scores loads of goals, you're going to go, not celebrating that. I'm refusing to celebrate that goal.
At the start, potentially. Give it a couple of months.
I'm turning my back at you, Nathan Redmond.
Wait until he adds a goal against Georgia to his goal against Gibraltar, and then we'll talk.
So there's an interesting phone call between Mick McCarthy and Daryl Murphy. McCarthy rings Murphy, and Murphy goes, "Yeah, how you doing? What's the story?" Mick is like, "Here, listen, come on, put your retirement on hold, Darren. It's hard to play 3 games in a week. Shut up and stay by the phone." And that's the end of it. He didn't say no, apparently. So Darren Murphy is not officially back in the fold, but officially back in the fold, according to Mick McCarthy. Well, he literally told him to shut up.
He's desperately out there hunting for a striker. Of course, Mick McCarthy is a big defender of Daryl Murphy. Daryl Murphy, who, of course, in, I want to say the year 2014, didn't get given the Championship Player of the Year. And Mick McCarthy was livid about this. Who did get the Championship Player of the Year? Patrick Bamford, who of course is on the sides of Mick McCarthy at the moment.
Yeah.
The injury-ravaged Leeds United striker, apparently quite open to the idea of playing for the Republic of Ireland in the near future.
Will Keane is the other one. So he's going to meet Bamford in Leeds, or has met Bamford in Leeds. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where exactly that is, because the use of the continuous present to describe the tense is a little bit confusing.
It makes it way more exciting, the continuous present.
Yeah.
It
maybe
seems like
this meeting has already happened. Maybe it hasn't. I take it as a positive that Patrick agreed to meet. I hope he wasn't getting me to travel to Leeds to say he's not interested. That would suggest I haven't met.
Well, you just don't know if it's in the past, the present, or the future.
No.
That's what makes it so exciting.
Helping Hands, the heroics. Heroics strengthen case for Solskjaer. It does strengthen the case. It makes it like a really live thing. We were saying, what does he have to do? Knock PSG out and the job is his, right? That's it. Mm-hmm. I think that they would make that appointment after the PSG game and roll that thing into the rest of the season and the summer. Well,
Adrian made a good point on Friday's show that Manchester United...
What's rare is beautiful.
What was that weird look to the camera for? That Manchester United are actually they're not being helped by the idea that Solskjaer has been doing so well as Manchester United manager, that they perhaps didn't expect this at all, that they were 100% expecting to be in a fervent search for his successor right now, whereas that search has just kind of been like, should we return to base? Should we just stop this search right now? Like, the thing is, it's going to be March before that tie ends, which people tend to forget. Is that enough time for you then to, if Solskjaer gets knocked out healthily by PSG, is the end of that second leg enough time for Manchester United to finally decide that they want to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? I'm not so sure. They need to make that call sooner than that.
Sooner than the summer?
The start of March. Not the call about who's going to replace him, but the call that they are going to replace him.
Oh, well, I think you talk to everybody, and then you have a process, and you give Solskjaer now the opportunity to...
If you want somebody like Maurizio Pochettino, you need to be giving them some sort of... You can't go to Maurizio Pochettino and say, well, if we get knocked out by PSG, the job is yours. If we beat PSG, the job isn't yours.
You need to interview for the job now, Maurizio. It's one of the best jobs in world football, and we're going to double your salary. Do you want this job? Are you interested in this job? What would it look like if you were in charge here, Maurizio?
I think it's more of a pursuit of Maurizio Pochettino than...
Well, then Maurizio can...
a job interview.
Maurizio can stay where he is with no money in a new stadium that might take them a year or two to settle into. And we might just be tapping Daniel Levy on the shoulder and going, we like the look of Harry Kane there. We'll give you 200 million for him.
Does Daniel Levy say yes to that?
Daniel Levy says yes, thank you very much. pockets 100, gives Maurizio 100. Who knows?
I think that's. I can't see that.
I mean, the club pockets 100, not Daniel Levy, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah, just in case the lawyers are getting in touch.
I'm not so sure. I think when it comes to those sort of assets, I think Danny Levy knows what he's got and is determined to not lose any of that. And this is potentially his last great collection of individuals as kind of like an organic football club. To the point you can call them organic, that is.
Yeah, I mean,
like more so than the rest of the top six. After that, they've got to change their business model dramatically because you've got to find a Harry Kane replacement first of all. So that means Tottenham have to just nudge their way into the big spending market.
But that's their old business model, and they would just buy like the next Christian Eriksen at that level.
On a more mega level.
You know, maybe they don't want to be mega. Maybe they just want to be top 4 and keep it at that. Okay, so the Irish Times, their lead this morning is, "This is the real United De Gea." I mean, it was a pretty sensational performance. And then McGrath injury, a blight on an otherwise perfect weekend. So Luke McGrath went down injured, and it looked not great. They treated him on the pitch immediately for a knee injury, and he was replaced. It turns out we don't have any other scrum halves at the moment who are fully fit. John Cooney was named to start for Ulster, but didn't make the game, pulled up before the game. Obviously Marmion is out injured as well, so McGrath's gone. So suddenly there isn't a whole heap of strength and depth. Yeah,
we're going to do our halfbacks depth chart on Friday's OTBAM to see where they are in terms of what the order is. It seems that when it comes to fit scrum halves, that order is fairly thin. Like, which would you rather have? A fully fit Conor Murray and nobody fit behind him, or the situation we were in for the All Blacks where you had
do you guarantee me he's going to survive for the duration of the tournament?
Not at all.
Yeah, well.
So that is the thing. Like, it was such an opportunity for any of these three. Now, the thing is, do we know the extent of John Cooney's injury?
No.
I don't think we do, considering he's a pull-up before the match. That'll become clear over the next 24, 48 hours. That, like, you make the leap, and you look at Marmion obviously going through surgery. That Luke McGrath injury did not look good on Saturday. John Cooney pulling up in training, just by pure naked eye, looks the least severe of those three injuries. I could be totally wrong here, and it's speculation. But there could be a situation where John Cooney is the backup scrum half going into the Six Nations, and how that completely changes everything in the sphere of where that depth chart may be going into the World Cup. That John Cooney suddenly is in the spotlight and will get minutes, will play against Italy, more than likely. That really, because you would have definitely said he was firmly Ireland's fourth choice scrum half 2 months ago. Do you rush Sexton back for that first game against England, or do you put Joey Carbery in now? Well, that's the storyline that may dominate the next couple of weeks. I think it depends. What are we talking here? 60% fit Johnny Sexton or 80% fit Johnny Sexton? If it's 80% fit Johnny Sexton, you start him against England. If it's 60% fit, you start Joey Carbery. Because 80% fit Johnny Sexton gets you to whatever, 60, 70 minutes, assuming he doesn't take anything substantial in terms of hits or collisions over the course of the game. I think you start if he's any less than 100, and there's probably a case anyway for saying, okay, this guy's in form, need to give him game time in big games, this is about as big as it comes, let's go, let's roll, let's see what this is. Because it's the last opportunity before the World Cup? Well, so there's 3 other opportunities after that game. But if Sexton's unfit, then the start of the Six Nations is going to be the best opportunity, because his fitness will just come back closer to 100% as the weeks roll on. Or they manage it through and they give him like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. I don't know. We can talk about this with Alan Quinlan a little bit later on as well. But the other thing that happened over the weekend, obviously Simon Zebo tweeted about a tough place to play, but great effort from the boys. 2 important points on the road. Also, I hope my ears deceive me with some comments directed my way from the crowd. # not on, Django wins in the end. So a quick search reveals that Django is the nickname that the Ireland players apparently gave Simon Zebo back in 2013 when he made the squad for the first time. Or maybe they inherited it from Munster, who knows. But you definitely would have seen Zebo referring to himself as that before in the past as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what comes of this. Apparently Racing have not made yet a formal complaint to the PCR. That was certainly the case last night, according to the newspapers. We'll chase that up this morning to see if there has been any complaint since. But you would hope that Racing do make a complaint if anything was said, and that it is investigated properly, because, it's bullshit. There's no way that anybody should be hearing stuff at any point on a rugby field in Ireland.
absolutely no way that should be happening. So let's wait and see. But hopefully Simon Zero does make a complaint. Hopefully Racing follow through with it too, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that is the lead story on the back page of the Irish Daily Mail this morning. Ulster probe is the headline. Abuse inquiry launched after Zebo's tweet. The Ulster statement says Ulster Rugby condemns all forms of abuse and will work robustly to investigate any complaints received. The back page of the Herald this morning is Rice will be my main man. Irish boss McCarthy reveals he will build his team around midfielder if he snubs the English. And also a story here by Frank Roach. Only Kerry can stop Dublin's run, says Curran. That's Paul Curran, who can't wait to see how the Dubs handle the pursuit of a history-making 5th consecutive All-Ireland title. Reckons Kerry are their biggest challengers. Back page of the Mirror is now he's a keeper. Solskjaer hails De Gea as a true United great as he puts himself in pole position for top job. And Salah penalty a gross injustice, says the other headline here. Liverpool clinging on to a 7-point lead at the top of the Premier League. Manchester City, I say clinging on to a 7-point lead, that's kind of a bit of an oxymoron there. And Manchester City playing tonight against Wolves in the Premier League to try and close that gap back to 4. A back page of the Irish Daily Star is simply the best. All I says David is world's finest. You've got that Zebo story there, and some positive news regarding Seamus Coleman back in the Everton team for their win yesterday in the Premier League. Back page of the Sun is Wembole Tremblay. Have a morning to you.
No, it's crap.
Poch fears for Crocked Cane. Well, it is the only pun I've got to this. Well, simply the best, probably not as good as Wembole Tremblay. You've also got Bonner rage over star trio. So furious Donegal boss Declan Bonner has refused to confirm reports he has axed star forwards Mark McHugh, Stephen McBearty and Darragh O'Connor. It'll be interesting to see how that story develops over the next couple of weeks with the National League a fortnight away. And finally for me, the back page of The Guardian is This is the Real United. Brilliant De Gea hailed Solskjaer's team after his saves seal victory.
All right, Daniel Harris is with us this morning. Daniel, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good, thanks. You're right.
Yeah, so a bunch of people have got in touch who are not Manchester United fans who are saying that if your goalkeeper is man of the match in a game like that and has to make 1,000 saves, well then how can it be a tactical masterclass, 1? And 2, surely Man United have got loads more problems. It's like, well, from where they've come from, it's not a bad result yesterday.
No, because if you're talking about the tactics, the tactical plan worked in the first half and not the second half. United played really well in the first half. I think if Pogba had a better game than he did, they might have been out of sight at half-time, because the pass that he played to Rashford to put him through for the goal, that wasn't the first time it was on, but Pogba's touch and passing weren't quite on in the first half. And they also had chances in the second half. It's true that subsequently, probably in the last half an hour, United kind of sat deep and defended, and there was no tactics involved there, and they were relying on the fact that they've got a good goalkeeper. But they've got a good goalkeeper. It's not cheating to have a good goalkeeper. And similarly, it's not bad luck that Spurs' finishing was imprecise, whereas Rashford's finish was very precise. So I think United deserved the win. There's a handy metric for determining who deserves to win a football match, and it's called the score. And they're improving, but I thought it was a good barometer of where United are at the moment. Is the attack is good enough to give any team aggravation. The midfield isn't good enough to protect the defence, and the defence isn't good enough to protect the goalkeeper. But it's possible, it's workable for now. There's something to work with, and they'll get better.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden it looks like the trio who started up front for Manchester United could be Manchester United players long into the future, and that could be a trio that takes them into the future. It looks like Lingard has a role, like a clearly defined role when the team play that way, and that he's more than capable of doing that. And he's also getting the best out of Martial and Rashford, and actually those three will improve for a run of games and the confidence that a manager like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gives them.
Yeah, I think that's right. In fairness to Jose Mourinho, not a sentence anyone particularly enjoys saying, but Rashford looked to have stepped it up in the final few weeks that Mourinho was at United, and Lingard was one of the few players that improved under Mourinho, and Martial also probably improved under Mourinho. But the thing about Lingard is that he's not, in some elements, a United standard player, in that United have had better players than him in the past, and the best United teams, he wouldn't have got into them. But in this current team, he makes the rest of the players around him play better, because he has a good football brain, so he's often in the right place, he has good movement, so he occupies defenders, he's fast, he's not scared, and he doesn't stop running. So you see him score goals in Mourinho's last game. He scored a goal against Liverpool because he carried on running and he was there to anticipate the error. Yesterday, he anticipated Kieran Trippier's pass, and not only did he intercept it, but he laid it down in such a way that it enabled Pogba to move the ball forward. And I was just thinking, if we go back to what we were saying about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactics, he probably got a bit lucky in that He had a week off where he was able to rehearse a new formation with the players while Tottenham were toiling against Chelsea. But he also took a risk in that if you match up a superior team, and Spurs are a superior team to United, if you match up a better team, their formation, then the chances are you're going to get beaten, because what you're doing is you're mirroring their tactics, except Spurs are more used to playing that diamond formation than United. They play it better than United, and they've got better players than United do at the moment. They've got a way of playing that United don't have. So for Solskjaer to take that risk actually was a significant decision. And in the first 5 minutes, I wondered if that actually would prove to be something sensible. Because usually, if you're the inferior team, what you want to do is you want to try and penetrate your opponent where they're weak and do something that is different to what they're doing. But actually, it worked really well. And in the second half, there's still lessons to be learned, because he wasn't able to affect the flow of the game. Perhaps United had put too much into the first half physically, but he wasn't able to affect the flow of the game particularly, certainly in the last 20 minutes. But that's also the way of things. When two good teams are playing, one's chasing a goal and one's defending a goal, you would expect to see something like what we saw, but you wouldn't. If Paris Saint-Germain get that many sights of United's goals, United won't finish with a clean sheet at the end.
Yeah. Do you expect Manchester United to put it up properly to PSG over the two legs? Like, at this point, it feels like they are a live contender to knock PSG out. It feels to me, anyway, with the sense of confidence that they have, and also the talent. Like, it's not just the attacking players who are playing better. Nemanja Matic is playing better, it seems to me, under Solskjaer, where he's allowed to pass the ball forward, where he's allowed to be himself and still be that very good defender that he was, but like, to get his head up and to look forward and just to have that sense of confidence.
Yeah, I thought he's someone I've obviously given quite a lot of stick. I thought he played quite well in the first half. In the second half, I would still be saying, well, how are Spurs getting at United's defence on this many occasions if you're doing your job properly? The thing about PSG is that it's hard to see how United are going to be able to shut Neymar and Mbappe out of the game with weight of numbers, because the balance of one on each side is problematic. A little bit different against Spurs, who don't play with wingers like that. So you think, well, if you can stop Harry Kane scoring, then Spurs are going to have a problem. So I think that United's best chance probably is, as you say, to fly at PSG from the off and try and score twice in the first half. Because if you look at what they're going to have to do, with the second leg in Paris, you would say United probably going to need 2 goals. If they go to Paris having won 2-1 or 1-0, that is going to be very difficult for them. So I think that it is possible that they could score 3 or 4 times over 2 legs against PSG. But if they defend like they defended yesterday, then they'll concede 5 or 6 times over 2 games. And because you can't expect De Gea to save everything again, you can't expect the finishing, which I don't think was that bad. Like, against lots of goalkeepers, if you put the ball very close to their body, then it's actually pretty hard to get down to. It's just that De Gea is so good with his feet that he's not like other goalkeepers, and his reactions are so quick that he saves things that other people wouldn't. And not only that, he makes them look routine. But PSG's finishing will be better, and you can't expect Mbappe and Neymar and Cavani to miss the chances that Spurs miss. So United will need to think about things, and they will need to find a way of playing that is not their natural way of playing, because they're not good enough to just go toe-to-toe with a team as good as PSG, but they've got a chance. And I think really, if they want to make the most of that chance, they need to sign at least a centre-back or a midfield player. I think that they won't.
Well, that's the thing. You point out the obvious flaws that still remain with this Manchester United team, that this doesn't really seem like the ordinary managerial bounce where all the parts are still fully working together in as close as they can possibly be to perfection. It seems that there is still an element of improvement within this Manchester United squad under Solskjaer's reign, which must be extremely encouraging from a Manchester United point of view.
Yeah, for sure, because what you're looking at now is under Mourinho, you're thinking, who are the good players? I'm not quite sure who's good, because the ones you think are good aren't really getting a proper chance and they're getting dropped after one bad game. What is the best team, and what do United even need? Now under Solskjaer, after 6 games, that just isn't the case. What's the best team? Well, you know what the best team is. You saw it in his first game, and you saw it yesterday. That's what the best team is. And so now it's a matter of saying, well, actually, where are the holes? And it's just, and you just have to sign the right players to fit those holes. That's difficult to do. But you could say, well, they need probably 2 midfield players and 1 or 2 centre-backs, depending on how good you think Victor Lindelof's going to be. But that's what you need. You don't need a striker. You don't need wingers, because you know now that Rashford, Martial, Lingard are a useful front 3, and you've got Lukaku and Sanchez in reserve. and you've got some players coming through in the under-23s who are good players and who are going to be really good players. It's a matter of filling the gaps in the squad. And that's what Liverpool did. They got to a point where they thought, actually, Jurgen Klopp knows what his best team is. He's found a way of playing. He's getting the most out of the best players. Now what he needs some guile in midfield. So he signs Shaqiri, he needs a goalkeeper, and he signs a centre-back. And he signed those players. And that's what United need to do in January and in the summer. And I guess we're kind of moving on to that question of who's going to be the person that gets to pick those players. And I said when we spoke after Solskjaer got appointed that it wouldn't be enough to smash the teams that United should be smashing. You need to start getting some results in big games. And we saw the first one of those yesterday. And we saw it done via thought and tactics and preparation, which tells you that it's not just about he's being nice to everyone. He's not Mourinho. He's telling them to express themselves. He's doing something more than that. And if he carries on like that, then he will probably make an unanswerable case to be given the job.
Yeah. It was interesting that Southgate got a mention at the weekend as a potential for this. Like, part of me feels like that's exactly what should happen, that everybody who is available, who has shown any aptitude for managing at a level similar to this, you can make the case that maybe international football isn't quite the same over a sustained period of time as the Manchester United job. But like, if you're doing due diligence, you think of Gareth Southgate as a potential Manchester United manager, and if that's all this is, then fine. But if they actually give it to Southgate, then it becomes a slightly different issue.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have a look at all the available candidates, and that is about time, because Moyes was presented by Fergie as a fait accompli, and it was a ludicrous appointment. Van Gaal, I felt at the time, was a less ridiculous appointment because he had a brilliant World Cup where it's just so rare that you watch a World Cup and the role of a manager in the exceptional progress of a team beyond what you would expect from them can be literally attributed to the decisions made by the coach that you've seen. But it was the wrong appointment. And Mourinho was also sort of presented as a fait accompli when there were other options available at the time. So yeah, it does make sense to speak to Poch, to look at Pochettino, to look at Allegri, to look at all these people. Southgate, I don't think is the right man for the job because I don't think that he's assembled a body of work yet. Where if you look at England in the World Cup, they didn't really beat anyone good. And they produced 2 or 3 really good first half performances, then faded in the second half, and Southgate was unable to do anything about that. So, for example, in the semi-final when they played Croatia, England played really well in the first half, should have been out of sight. And Southgate seemed to assume that Croatia would just play that badly again in the second half. He didn't really make any changes, and his game management in the course of the tournament seemed that he was unable to affect the flow of the game with sensible substitutions. And even in the Nations Cup, the win over Croatia was uplifting, but it sort of came in the chaos rather than anything sensible that Southgate did. And the thing about Solskjaer is if he gets the job, it will be because he's made a case by getting results for United. And I don't think that there's anything Southgate has done or can do between now and then that would rival the case that Solskjaer has the potential to make. If he ends up getting the job, it will be because he's won loads of games with United and done it in the right way and plotted in such a way that it shows that there's a future for his management. And the other thing about Southgate and Solskjaer is if you say that they're similar in that neither of them has done anything remarkable in the top level, Southgate doesn't have that much authority with non-English United players. Whereas Solskjaer is slightly different because he's a club hero, which is going to make some of the players feel like they should listen to him because he's accorded respect by other people that they respect and accorded respect around the club that gives him slightly more authority to go with the power that you get as a manager of United.
Yeah, Ferguson also being there, like I wouldn't have been terribly surprised to have found out afterwards that Ferguson wandered down to the changing rooms to say hello to everybody, you know, just as a bless you, like an old pope. Just to briefly talk about Liverpool before we finish up here, they're grinding out the wins in a way that they have to do if they're actually going to wrap up a league title this year. And just there was a lot made of how important this game was going to be after the 2 successive defeats. Granted, one was in the cup, but these matches in the past have tripped up potential title winners, and the manner in which they managed to scrape a 1-0 win is exactly what you want from a team chasing a title.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've obviously, as you know, gobshotted on here all season that I don't think Liverpool will win the league, and I don't think they'll get particularly near winning the league. That is beginning to look like gobshitting, it's got to be said. I do think that City will win the league in the end because there's too many games to go, and you always ask yourself the question: which team is better? And I think I don't see any way that City aren't better. And Liverpool had the good fortune to have a brilliant purple patch while City were without David Silva, Fernandinho, Sergio Aguero and Kevin De Bruyne. And City is still in it. So I do think that it was a huge win for Liverpool, because if they don't win that and then City do win, the lead's almost gone, and the momentum begins to reverse when you've gone 3 games without a win. But they managed to find a way. And at the moment, the reason why they're in front and the reason why I'm reevaluating and thinking perhaps this will be close is that Liverpool are finding a way to win all the games that you would expect them to win. So then if it comes down to, if the league champions come down to just who wins against the other decent teams in what's left of the season, then those are going to be very fine margins. So I do think City will win the league, but I do think that was also a huge win for Liverpool. And again, if they can keep their key players fit, if they can keep Salah and Van Dijk fit, then they've got a chance. But I do think that City are. I mean, you're beginning to hear the Jaws music when City come out to play now, and that's not the case with Liverpool. They haven't had a bad patch yet. So I still expect City to win the league, but Liverpool have got a chance.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you about, Daniel. There's a fella who's been given the Player of the Weekend award here in The Guardian called Declan Rice. I'm not sure if you heard of him. He seems pretty good. How many England caps is he going to get?
I don't know. It depends. I mean, who wouldn't be seduced by being built around by Mick McCarthy? I think that it's really hard to knock out opinions about who you think players are going to play for and who you think players should play for, because the identity of a particular individual is, quite frankly, none of anyone else's business. And so, I mean, I saw it particularly when Wilfried Zaha decided to play for Cote d'Ivoire, not for England. And Gareth Southgate, who generally seems like quite a nice guy, basically suggested that he wasn't as committed as other players and started using tropes that it's not really acceptable to refer to. He compared him unfavourably to Jermaine Defoe, who would do anything for England. And again, like, his identity is none of anyone's business, and you should never be surprised when a player decides to play for a team that you think is less good than the one that they could play for, because these things are complicated. Danny Welbeck's another one. I was at Danny Welbeck's England debut. It was against Ghana, because my wife's Ghanaian and I was in the Ghana end. And when he decided he was playing for Ghana, I thought, he's playing for England, not Ghana. I had a brief moment where I thought, that's a shame. I'd have preferred you to play for Ghana. And then I advised myself, and I realised that how he identifies has absolutely nothing to do with me. So back to Declan Rice. I'm not going to give an opinion about who I think he should play for, because it's up to Declan Rice who Declan Rice plays for. But yeah, he looks a really talented player, and he's able to do a lot of things, which is also really interesting, because I think what we're getting in young players is we're getting really skillful players who are really good on the ball and really good touch wherever they play. And Declan Rice is a defensive player, but also looks like he's able to defend. And we saw from his finish that he's also got excellent technique. On Goals on Sunday yesterday, Miguel Antonio was saying they give him loads of stick in training because he should score loads more goals than he does because he's so good on the ball. And he also said that he thinks his best position is in front of the back four. So I think that he's someone who looks to have all the potential to do everything and looks to have the right character to get on with doing everything. But yeah, I don't know who he'll play for.
So he's been linked with City, obviously, this week. But the way you're talking about him there and how Manchester United have clearly identified a hole, either as a centre-back or as a defensive central midfielder, he could equally work for Manchester United, right?
Yeah, I think we'll see a few players bought in that position. Because City, as we've seen this season, they tried to sign Jorginho. Not sure. I think they might have been well out of that one, as it happens. But they tried to sign Jorginho, and they struggled when they didn't have Fernandinho. Everyone wants Frankie de Jong. Spurs apparently trying to buy him. So United need a player for that position as well. So yeah, it's quite hard to see Declan Rice being at West Ham in the summer, and he will probably get a move to an English club in the summer. I'm guessing, and might be Manchester United, might be Manchester City. But if Pep Guardiola wants you, then if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants you, then yeah, there's a good chance that you're a serious player, and it's definitely if Mick McCarthy wants you. Yeah,
I mean he's been liking comments on Instagram, and it's been making the news here that somebody Instagrammed future Irish captain, and he liked it, so therefore he's back, baby.
Present Irish captain is what I say. Just give him the captaincy now.
Straight away.
Forget the green jersey.
Yeah,
should be Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, there might be an opening. Daniel, great stuff. Thanks a million.
See you again, guys.
Daniel Harris there gave us some thoughts on what's going on in the world of English football. We didn't get to Rio Ferdinand and Mike Ashley.
No, we didn't. And
passionate defence of Mike Ashley. Newcastle fans should be grateful. They should prostrate themselves down in front of him at his knee, kiss his feet for saving that club.
Most importantly, though, Richard Keys backing him up, saying, "Well said, Rio Ferdinand. If Rafa loves Newcastle, as he says, spend some of his own money. He's got enough. Management is about teamwork. Why should it always be Ashley? Buy it. It's still for sale. They're in the bottom three and Rafa is responsible. He picks the team." Which I'm sure he is just looking for a reaction there. No man can possibly miss the point that spectacularly.
3,000 likes on that.
Like, it's all ironic likes. Like, nobody is actually thinking
Sunderland fans.
that. Yeah, exactly. Nobody is really in agreement with that. It's like I saw people tweeting him saying there's problems with the NHS. Should nurses buy hospital beds?
Yes, of course they should.
Yeah, of course they should. According to
they're
Richard
rich.
Keys. This little tab of the weekend at a glance in The Guardian is actually pretty good reading from an Irish perspective. Of course, player of the weekend was Declan Rice. Sheahan Long makes team of the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
He was excellent on Saturday.
Yeah.
He was really good. He won the penalty that got their first goal, obviously, and then scored a second, which...
You're not giving to him. You are gooseberrying.
The only reason I'm giving this goal to Sheahan Long is because it set up one of the more remarkable modern footballing statistics, that his last 4 Premier League goals have come under 4 different managers for Southampton, which is an astonishing statistic. But if you watch that goal again, now it's not an own goal, like if you get into the nitty-gritty of the law, was his shot on target? I dare say it wasn't. I say Kasper Schmeichel gave him a massive dig out in terms of putting that one into the back of the net. But he deserved the goal. He was brilliant, and he does make the Guardian team of the weekend. The one Irishman who did get screwed over, I feel, in the goal-scoring stakes was actually Jeff Hendrick for one of Burnley's own goals. Now, the Burnley game was just classic Burnley. They Burnley the life out of Fulham. They didn't have a single shot on target and still managed to beat them 2-1, despite the fact that Andre Schürrle scored one of the goals, probably one of the goals of the month. I don't want to say goals of the season, and it was completely deflated by the fact that Burnley beat them without getting a shot on target. But I feel that Jeff Hendrick's shot had a very good chance of being on target. It was one of those that you're cutting in, you're on, to the right of the goals with the right boot. Just with the outside of the boot, it might have just curled in and gone in off the woodwork. I suspect that's what would have happened with Hendrick's effort. But the statistics people said it wasn't, and it was given as an own goal. To a Fulham own goal at that point. So that's a bit of a shame from that perspective. But there are green shoots from an Irish perspective. Kieran Clark as well, scoring against Chelsea on Saturday, which has to be one of the more dour post-match press exchanges I've ever seen between Maurizio Sarri and Rafa Benitez. Benitez, of course, at this point, everything is doom and gloom, and everything he says just feels like a really sad movie. And Sarri and all his Chelsea players just can't find a smile no matter where they look. Even when they've won, it kind of sounds like that they've just suffered a defeat. So the Kieran Clark goal came in that particular exchange. So I don't want to use the phrase "good week for the Irish," but
why not? Go on.
But
do it.
In the context of where we've been at for the last year,
is it like one of the greatest weeks?
I've got to press the button right now and say it was a good weekend for the Irish in the Premier League.
Okay, somewhere McCarthy just felt a shiver down his spine. Oh, what happened? Did somebody tempt fate? Right, let's move on, because it was a good week for Seamus Coleman, back in the team yesterday as Everton beat Bournemouth by 2-0. We had commentary of that game on Off the Ball. Stephen Doyle was the commentator. He went down afterwards into the bowels of the stadium and had this conversation with Seamus Coleman. Have a look.
I know there's a bit of maybe doom and gloom around the Irish squad after last year, what happened, but you look what happens this weekend. Kieran Clark has scored for Newcastle. Jeff Hendrick was a big player for Burnley yesterday. You're playing well for Everton. Like, things kind of seem to be coming together at the right time now for Ireland.
I think, look, we want to give a lot more to Ireland. You know, the Euros was a great time for everyone involved, and the management team were great to get us that far, and now the changes have happened in the management team, and with that will always bring in excitement, and then once again it'll be down to the players to perform. And I think a lot of players, you know, are doing very well at club level. You know, Matt Doherty's come into the Premier League this year, and he's been great. And as you said, Kieran Clark, and for me, Shane Duffy, he'll never get the headlines over here because he's not maybe an English centre half, but for me he's top centre half, and week in week out, you know, throwing his body on the line. Now I think he's got 4 Premier League goals this season, so we have got some very good players, and as I said, Shane Duffy's definitely one of them.
And has Mick McCarthy been in touch with you? Or you're obviously the skipper. Has he spoken to you on the phone or anything?
Yeah, I've been in touch with the manager, and you know, talking about the team and what's ahead, and it's just up to myself to go into him and do what I always did, and I'm sure he'll be looking forward to getting all the players on board, because there's no friendlies before it gets competitive, so I'm sure he'll be trying to get as much work as he can, and it's an exciting time for everyone, and then having Robbie on board as well will be great for the lads.
Can Mick give the squad the boost that it needs going into these big games? As you said, there's no friendlies, it's straight into qualifiers.
Yeah, I think of course that's why they've picked Mick as a manager. He's got a great passion for the country. He's managed a team before, and he'll get a lot of respect from the lads. And as players now, we've got to. There's no excuses anymore. We've got to look within, as I always say, look at the players, and we've got to show up. And I fully believe that we got the players, and I think we'll have learned a hell of a lot from the last year. It was quite poor, and sometimes you learn the most when things aren't going well.
The debate raging at home is, can Matt Doherty and Seamus Coleman play in the same team? What do you think?
That's up to the manager. I'm sure he'll have his decisions to make, and you can keep debating, but it'll be Mick McCarthy's choice. Shame,
or I should say, Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson have done it at Scotland. Two really good left backs played in the same team, so it is possible.
Yeah, of course. Look, it's possible. That'll be the manager's decision. I think if he can get as many Premier League players into the team, and I'm sure he'll be doing that. And as I said, some lads in the Championship are doing very well as well, so it's exciting. But the Irish team's not about me and Matt, it's about 11 players and all the lads in the squad, and more importantly the manager and the fans as well.
I'll just ask you finally, because you know the League of Ireland so well, Stephen Kenny's going to be taking over the under-21s and eventually taking over the senior team as well. What were your own thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I'm one that likes to see hard work be rewarded, and I think Stephen Kenny has done a great job with Dundalk, over the last few seasons, winning the league, I think maybe 3 out of the last 4, and then doing so well in Europe, and maybe losing some of his best players every season, and then finding a way to get new players in and continue to keep winning. So he's got something about him, and I'm sure he'll be itching to get involved with the 21s now and show what he's about at that level, and then we need to do our job for the next 2 years, and then Stephen will step in, and fingers crossed he can do well.
Yeah, always interesting to hear from Seamus Coleman. Always very generous with his time after we did those games as well, speaking with Stephen Doyle yesterday. You can watch that whole bit interview up on youtube.com/Off the Ball. You can also always get all our stuff if you subscribe to our Twitter feed on twitter.com/Off the Ball. Darren is here. Darren, how are you?
I'm very well, Ger. Good morning to yourself. We'll start with the latest from the tennis, and Andy Murray has started his Australian Open campaign. The Scot playing Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut just a few days after revealing he plans to retire due to a hip injury, going with serve so far, and Murray looks to be more comfortable than he was in that practice match. He wasn't moving well at all, but Murray and Bautista Agut are level at 4-4. Rafa Nadal has got off to a winning start at the Australian Open. The number 2 seed beat James Duckworth in straight sets. Maria Sharapova.
Darren has just ruined our show for the next 2 weeks by reminding us that the Australian Open is on while we're on, and as he was doing that, Owen in the background
went straight for the TV.
On. I
turned it straight back off again.
It's going to be we're literally going to be just goggle boxing for the next 2 weeks. Going, ooh.
It'll be less interesting when we've got a black screen.
Yeah. You can turn it on and hit.
No,
hit
I couldn't. The mute
his fat fingers can't get
I'll look after it later on. Keep going.
Right, Nadal beat James Duckworth in straight sets. Maria Sharapova and Angelique Kerber have also won their first round matches. With the football, Paul Pogba says Manchester United's winner against Tottenham came straight from the training ground. Marcus Rashford got on the end of a perfect pass from the Frenchman before slotting past Hugo Lloris to hand United a 1-0 win over Spurs. The Red Devils are now level on points with Arsenal, who are in 5th place, 6 behind 4th place Chelsea. There's the latest standings after yesterday's action. We can hear from Paul Pogba now. The midfielder says they were well prepared for the game.
We knew that was the weakness of Tottenham when they attack in one side. They get high, and we needed to attack in the opposite side. So we've been training, and that's what we did, and we scored a goal. So yeah, we were prepared on this. We knew it will be a very difficult game, and we knew we could hurt them in this counter-attack. That's what we've been working on last week, and on this attack, we knew we could hurt them like this. Obviously, they're very good with the ball. When they are with the ball, they know where to go. They have this pattern. And we knew that was the key of creating chances.
Yeah, Paul Pogba there. Pretty interesting comments as well, mentioning that the tactics of Jose Mourinho didn't particularly suit him or bring out the best in him after the game, speaking to Jamie Redknapp on Sky Sports. While Tottenham Hotspur could face a potential striker crisis at the moment, their leading scorer, Harry Kane, hobbled off in stoppage time. The England captain, caught late by Phil Jones. Defeat left Spurs 9 behind the league leaders Liverpool. Manager Mauricio Pochettino is worried, having lost Kane to similar injuries in each of the last 2 seasons.
We'll see what happens in the next few days. We need to assess him, but it's a little bit swelling in his ankle. I think everyone can see the tackle on the end, less Mike Dean. But yes, it was a massive tackle. I don't know who was, but yes, we'll see. We need to assess. Hope that is not a big issue.
Meanwhile, Munster know now what they have to do if they're to finish top of Pool 2 in the Champions Cup. Exeter Chiefs recorded a bonus point win over Cast, leaving Johan van Grant's side 4 points clear of the English side going into next week's clash at Thomond Park. The Premiership team must win if they are to progress. Should Munster lose, they'll need to get a bonus point and hope Exeter don't secure one of their own. If both teams are tied at the top of the pool after next week's match, then Exeter would go through as the group winners, as they would have scored more match points in the 2 games between the sides. Leinster's hopes of qualifying in the top 2 seeds for their quarter-final suffered a bit of a blow. Saracens beat Leon 28-10 to jump back ahead of Leo Cullen's side and Racing 92 and secure qualification to the last 8 of the competition. Leinster will now be hoping one of Saracens or Racing lose in the final round of pool games, while they'll need to beat Wasps in England. Ulster say they will robustly investigate any complaints after Simon Zebo claimed he was abused by fans. The winger was booed by the crowd after scoring a try for Racing 92 against Ulster in the Champions Cup on Saturday. The former Munster man then tweeted after the game, "I hope my ears deceived me," with some comments directed my way from the crowd. #not on. Django wins in the end. Now, some took the reference to suggest that the abuse was racist in nature. Django Unchained, a Quentin Tarantino film about an African-American slave. In Gaelic Games, Breed Stack has brought the curtain down on her glittering career today. The Cork player has announced her retirement in the Irish Examiner. She says, "I'm moving on with the best memories, stories and friendships that will last me a lifetime. You'd love to do it all over again. It went by in a fecking flash, but life moves on. There is still a great team and they're well capable of recapturing an All-Ireland. The future is good. Ladies football is a great spectacle now." Stack, one of just 4 players to win 11 All-Ireland senior medals with the successful Cork team, alongside the likes of Deirdre O'Reilly, Breach Corkery and Rena Buckley. Remarkably, the imperious defender played every minute of those 11 successful deciders at Croke Park, and her mantelpiece includes 7 All-Stars and the Footballer of the Year award for 2016. Well, Joe Canning was the hero for Galway. He scored an injury-time sideline cut to win it. The former hurler of the year got the key score as the Tribesmen edged Dublin by 21 points to 117 in the Walsh Cup semi-final. They'll face Wexford in the final after Davy Fitzgerald's men beat Kilkenny by 16 points to 13. Well, Tony Kelly stole the show for Clare. They won the Munster Senior Hurling League yesterday. The 25-year-old scored 2-3 for the banner as they defeated Tip by 419 to 118.
You're done?
That's me.
All right, good stuff. Andy Murray's in a bit of a battle here to hold serve. 5-4 down in the first set. We'll let you know how that one goes on. Going to bring you this now. Bernard Jackman and Irish Examiner journalist Brendan O'Brien joined Joe on yesterday's Sunday paper review. Here's Jackman talking about Jacob Stockdale.
There's a thing about Stockdale. So take his recent tries. I'm thinking of the Scarlets away game where he had a great run down the wing. And even the solo effort last night against Claremont, where he beats a really good player on the outside who gets hands on him and then kicks. And as happens in Jacob Stockdale's life, the ball bounces the right way. That's the other thing. Like, that has to stop soon, or else he's able to predict how a ball's going to bounce in some innate way that we don't realise. But there have been a number of occasions, like the Scarlets game, like last night against Racing, where taken in isolation, you would say, well, the defender should have stopped him. Yeah. You know, he had hands on him. So that's just poor defending. But it's now happening too many times. So there's something he's doing when defenders get hands on him that makes him not as easy to stop as we think he might be.
He's a very strong fend, handoff, and he has that ability. He's, for a big, strong, quick, athletic guy, he actually has very good footwork. So as the tackler lunges, he's able to just shift slightly away again. Whereas most players are committed to to that running line, and they're not able to have a late change direction. So it's not a flamboyant sidestep like we saw for the last try for Toulouse yesterday, Seamus Coleman, but he has very subtle footwork that just gets him that millimetre he needs to break those tackles.
Right.
And he did twice yesterday for the first try as well, Antoine Classon's. You know, for all manner, he should have been in touch.
Yeah.
But it's harder to work out how he missed the tackle than made it. But
Stockdale seems to be a common denominator, though, in those missed tackles.
And very few guys can do that. And I think now he's up there. If there's a British and Irish Lions tour this summer, you would say he's probably nailed on to be the starting winger.
All right. So that's Bernard Jackman sticking Stockdale on the Lions team. Good morning to you. Alan Quinlan's here with us. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yeah.
Pretty enjoyable weekend for Irish rugby fans generally.
Yeah, it was brilliant. The worry was, I suppose, Munster away. Well, there was a worry with the three Heineken Champions Cup ones. Really, you know, Munster's a little bit of fear about going to Gloucester, and Toulouse side then coming to Dublin, who were full of confidence and self-belief, and Leinster missing a lot of frontline players, and then the power of Racing going to Belfast. So there was no guarantee with any of the three of them. Connacht had a good home win, obviously, in the Challenge Cup as well. But going back to the other ones, I think Friday night, first and foremost, to have a comprehensive win like that, they were very, very comfortable.
Friday night was stunning.
Yeah, it was, I think, because
it wasn't
Gloucester,
a close win, it wasn't a drop goal in the last minute, it was we're better than you and we're crushing you.
Yeah, Gloucester were very impressive to get away in Exeter, and I was thinking, God, that round 5-1 for Munster is going to be difficult. And given on the back of what happened in Cast in round 4, I think we spoke about the injustices before, and maybe some regrets Munster would have had with managing the game and getting a result there would have come back to bite them, but that was a fantastic response. But their form in recent weeks has been really good, and the win against Leinster away in Connacht, so confidence and self-belief is high.
Their full team.
Yeah, well, that's the key. You know, look, we know, and everyone speaks about Leinster's depth, I think, and Munster have created a little bit more depth. They have some options off the bench now, but still, you want the frontliners available, and you know, the ones that kind of jump out are Klein and Byrne in the second row, that engine room. Having Tommy O'Donnell back, he got a knock the other night again, but I thought he played really, really well. Carbery was fantastic. Farrell back was significant for him because even though he's still a little bit off, he still had a massive impact, and when he carries the ball, he offers, you know, he's just so big and physical, he gets through the gain line.
And he can pass.
He can offload, he can pass, he can link, so they can build stuff around him, and he's a threat. And I think that helps Carbery as well. And Rory Scannell was really good. So
I was going to say, they also do this other thing where they have a left-footed kicker who takes the kicks on the right touchline and boots it the length of the field. It's like...
Someone texted me last week, Darren, said after the game, and said, if that Munster team stay fit, they can challenge. And you know, maybe because I played for Munster for so long, and I'm kind of restricting myself to getting too far ahead. And they won't either. And let's be realistic here. You know, Gloucester were poor, but if that team stays fit and actually plays a number of games together, you think it'll take a good side to beat them.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of good options now, but the key is trying to stay fit. And Johan van Graan deserves credit because he hasn't had that full deck and opportunity to play those guys. And if they're readily available, they will take. The problem they have now is they may look like they've got to beat Exeter first and foremost. They'll fancy their chances going to Thomond Park, and they're a strong, resilient side who probably have their own regrets about the pool stages. You certainly can't underestimate them, but Munster have just got to try and win that game at the weekend, but it looks like they'll probably still be away in the quarter-final if they get there.
Look, we weren't speaking to you over the course of Christmas and over the last couple of weeks when we kind of saw this graph of Munster slowly but surely getting an identity together, especially in the backs. Have they arrived close to that end point where you can see the plan that they have, especially in that back line?
They've built a bit of momentum on, you know, and that's important when you get some big wins, and that's why the Leinster one was probably so significant psychologically, that they, you know, trying to cope with another loss there would have been set them back, and you know, psychologically it just was really important that they got that result. And then going to Galway was, you know, Connacht have been really good this season, and it was a strong Munster side that went, and we all thought there'd be a bit more rotation, but they picked a very strong side. So I think they were probably the real winners of the Interpros, Munster, to get that one and away in Connacht. And that instills a bit of belief. And again, like I say, you have a bit of luck with some guys back. They still have some more players to come back. But what jumped out at me was the options off the bench. I think Jeremy Loughman has been really good recently. James Cronin is out long term, which he's a loss to them. But Reece Marshall, having him back, and John Ryan coming off the bench, Billy Holland then came in for Peter O'Mahony. You know, you just have options there now to make a little bit of an impact, particularly up front. And you know, we know if Earls and Conway get enough of ball, they're electric, and they were brilliant the other night. And Mike Haley has actually improved and seems to be settling really well there and showing some potential. So the key is probably, you know, get through next week and hope. You know, there's going to be a lot of changes during the Six Nations period, but hope that the vast majority or all that group will be fit if they get to a quarter final, and then try and keep them well and get a bit of luck with them towards the end of the season. So Peter O'Mahony, it's unlikely he'll play this weekend. I think they can cope without him. They have some other options in the back row. Clotail will probably be back. Wycherley could play.
It's a bit risky, isn't it?
Sort of like it is, yeah. But look, I think if he's injured, he's injured. It's kind of
popped the rib.
He popped the rib, and I think,
sorry. Have you done that?
I haven't popped the rib. I've got plenty. Yeah, it just the rib displaces a little bit in the joint area, and it can be very, very sore.
I was going to say that.
I've done it to my sternum before, which is obviously your ribs as well, the centre point of your ribs, but it can be very, very sore. And for him to come off at that stage,
how do they get it back in? Does someone have to
it just kind of stays where it is. It really and just heals up. And but he may play. Look, Peter O'Mahony might play. You put on the big padding and the bubble wrap and strap it up. But
is that almost one of the more impressive elements of Friday? Was that after he went off and then Murray went off, obviously about 10 minutes later?
Yeah, I think the scene was set though. They'd laid out their stall with the scrum dominance, the pressure on the Gloucester line out. And now, in fairness, Gloucester's back three were really poor in fielding the box kicks, and they knocked on a lot of ball, and they made it easier for Munster. But they went out with a real intent and a confidence that they were going to get the job done. And you just had this feel about them that they're more steely, more resilient now, because we've spoken about their away form. They know that themselves. Pre-Christmas, it wasn't good. But this was a real clinical, strong performance, and
killer instinct just before half time.
Yeah, there was a couple of, and obviously, if you want to pick through some holes, you say they could have got a few more scores and probably should have. But
that's always
they're building, and to win 41-15 away from home against anyone in round 5 of Europe is a seriously impressive result.
Owen has listed off every single person who might at any point have helped to deliver Joey Carbery to his spiritual home at Thomond Park.
I think he actually drove him down, did you? First day you were his taxi. He's pleased, but he was incredible, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The key here is after Cast, people are saying he missed the kicks, his game management wasn't good, he was straight away there was that pessimism there, which
very Irish
happens. It's very Irish. We do that, don't we? We do it good. But his feet are firmly on the ground, I think, and part of that process is good for him. It'll be a bit of a learning process. But he said it himself after the match, if your forwards don't deliver and don't perform up front and set the tone, it's harder for halfbacks, and that's what they did in the last couple of weeks, and that's why he's excelled. He's a natural talent, and he's only going to grow into that role more and more and get more confident.
He hasn't missed a kick since, though.
He hasn't missed a kick, but that comes with a little bit of confidence and belief. And also, I saw Rog tweeting about it, and I spoke to him about it, is his ability to take it to the line and really kind of test the defensive line, make defenders hold and stop. And he did that really well the other night, and he brings other players into the game well. So, like I said, the forwards are really good, and they laid on a platform for him. One other area that was really impressive was defensively. They just looked like there was a massive enthusiasm and organisation. You know, enthusiasm is one thing. When one guy shoots out of the line and you leave a gap, he's trying to, show loads of enthusiasm. But collectively, they were very organised, in good shape. And Van Grant spoke about it afterwards. Even when Ollie Thorley scores that try after about 35 phases, Munster got better again after that, because they scored straight away after that. Because you build belief, you build an energy around that kind of defensive shape. And if someone scores on the sideline, we've always been told as players, well, you don't say well done, but you go, well, we couldn't prevent that. You can prevent all that stuff, that narrow stuff. And they defend it. They showed a real steel about them, and that's what they can build on, that kind of stuff. Do they need to be more clinical? Yes. But I think that will improve if the more they get the top line players out in the field together.
Is there an argument to try and get Carbery into the Ireland team at 15?
Not at the moment, I don't think. But if he was to start there, he's an incredible talent and he's a great footballer, and he showed that with Leinster last year. He has that X factor and that ability to do something special. So I don't think it'll happen at the moment, because I think Rob Kearney will still be the full back for the Six Nations, but it's an option, and he is someone that you could easily put in there because he's that talented.
Shouldn't you try it out now in the Six Nations, so you're not doing it for the first time in the World Cup? Like, when we think back to the Lions, right, and you got two really good 10s, and we actually got way better. The Lions got way better when we had both of them in the team. Like, we're not going to play Carbery at 12. Very unlikely. I mean, not impossible.
The problem I have with that, Ger, is do you then put Ross Carbery on the bench as your second 10? Or who's your second 10? Because if you have a full back, just say you did hypothetically play Sexton and Carbery in the team.
Put Cooney on the bench.
Yeah, moving Carbery then to 10, there's a lot of reshuffling going on, and I don't know about, I'm not sure about that.
The All Blacks did it with Bowden Barrett.
Yeah, they can do that a little bit, but not for me at the moment. Anyway, but he can do it, absolutely.
Is there an argument to start him a couple of games in the Six Nations?
Yes, there is, yeah.
Irrespective of health of Sexton, so that we...
There is, there is.
For the first game?
No, not for the first game. Not against England. I think you could...
What's the point in just playing against Italy?
Again. Yeah, I wouldn't just play him against Italy. I think I'd maybe look at the Scottish or French game as well. Or maybe, look, Sexton's going to start the majority of them. He's your number one. He's
got a little bit of a niggle at the moment, clearly, because otherwise Leinster would have picked him at the weekend.
Yeah, so if he can, but look, Six Nations is about winning as well, Ger. I think, and
it's not this one time. It's not.
It is for me.
No,
it is for me.
But it can't be, right? Because we've traditionally done really well in the Six Nations the year of a World Cup, and it's been irrelevant afterwards, except as a stick to beat the team with. But you were the best team in the Six Nations.
7 or 8 months away. You know what I mean? You got to win in the here and now, and that's the way they'll be thinking. That's the way I think as a player. Win the Six Nations. England first. Win that. Make sure you're going to Cardiff, whether it's hopefully challenge going for a Grand Slam, but at least going for being in with a shout of winning the championship. I know what you're saying, and I fully understand what you're saying about it not being the complete and sole and dominating focus.
Here's the thing: I don't actually think we would have any less of a chance of winning against England with Carbery playing the way he is now. Like, I don't think we would be like
I know.
Are we minus 2 points, minus 3 points, minus 5 points? I don't think we're like.
Yeah, well, Johnny Sexton will be coming in chatting to you in a few weeks, and you'll be working with him. I don't think he'll be too pleased with you.
I just don't think the step down is as big as it used to be.
No, it's not. No, look, there's no doubt about it, and that'll actually spur Sexton on more. But he'll not want to give Joey Carbery a sniff, and he's right.
As we saw.
Yeah, he's right. I'd be the exact same if there was somebody else. Even if you're good friends, I was good friends with Simon Easterby all the way through, and we played against each other. We tore lumps out of each other, and it happened in training as well. And that's just the nature of it, the competitive nature. But yeah, he proved that he's getting better and he can manage a game better, and we'll wait and see.
Yeah, all right. Annette Kent asks on YouTube, Carbery left Leinster to get more time at 10. Why are you asking if he'll play at fullback? And then an answer from Sean J says, because then he gets to be on the pitch at the same time as Sexton. And like, definitely, like, more big game experience. Certainly, that's the way that Leinster had envisaged using him into the future, would be play him at fullback and play Sexton at 10.
But it makes more sense for him if you're going to start him in any jersey for Ireland, it's going to be 10, because he hasn't. That's where it's worked before for Joey Carbery in an Ireland jersey.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do it.
I think the option can come during games, bringing him off the bench. If you're chasing a game, you want to change something up, you want something different, that's the way it'll happen.
We should talk about Leinster, because Leinster's performance against Toulouse was as good as a Leinster performance as it's been in the group stages. I would argue almost ever, because of the nature of the amount of players that they were missing, the quality, the number of caps, the general sense that this is a very young team, and against a Toulouse team who had beaten them already this season and are absolutely tearing up trees in the top 14. Now, I don't know if Toulouse were into this game as the game wore on.
They picked a side that suggested that they wanted to win. So I think they made a mistake in putting Ramos at 10 and taking out Zach Holmes. Now, Ramos has played well in the last few weeks for him.
He's
normally full back, and Maynard had been playing well at full back, and they'd done a bit of rotation there, and Ramos went well, and of course they beat Toulon 39-0 at home, and they go away and beat Agen, which is a good result away, and any result away from home in France is good. So they went with that formation, and they quickly in the second half changed it, brought Holmes back on and took Ramos off. I thought he was really poor, Ramos. Holmes offered more of a threat, and it was too late at that stage.
Yeah.
Intermac at 12 has been sensational. He's such a lovely footballer. He's really intelligent, and he brings so many guys in around him. He's like an extra playmaker as a 12, because he can play 10 as well, and he didn't get a touch of the ball. He just didn't. They did not have the ball, and that was down to Leinster's ability to recycle, to hold on to it, to be relentless. And I think I heard Leo Cullen saying afterwards that even though they didn't get the scores and build up a big score, they asked so many questions, and they were like, they looked. Now, to be fair to them, up to half time, they defended manfully Toulouse, and they didn't give up, and they kept trying to put in the big tackles. But it was wave after wave after wave, and there was a real inevitability at half time that the home team were 10-6 up against a strong breeze, and that their game management will be so much better. Their box kicks from Luke McGrath and Ross Byrne, and their just overall kicking game. Toulouse couldn't get out of their own 22 practically in the second half, and that pressure, and you sensed as the game wore on they were just getting tireder, and mentally they were becoming a bit fragile. But Leinster were relentless now. They were really, all their forwards were like, it was just as if this was the standard that we want to be at, with our tempo, with our pace, with our aggression, with our energy, and that all 23 have to reach this level today, and this is what we want of you. And they all did. In there was a few mistakes and there was a few errors that there always is, but just the pace and the aggression that they had, and the relentless enthusiasm to clean out breakdowns and stuff like that, and make tackles and just frustrate the life out of Toulouse. So Toulouse couldn't play. So you have a team who are full of confidence, who throw the ball around, who are scoring sensational tries in the top 14, and they're a little bit shell-shocked because Colby's not getting the ball. He's probably the most dangerous player in the world. Intermac, the playmaker, is not really getting it. Guitoun in the centre, the other centre, made one line break in the first half, and they end up dropping it. They showed a few little glimpses early on that they were quite dangerous. But that's it. Their forwards are well beaten up front, and Leinster, they deserve a lot of credit. You're missing Carney, Levy, O'Brien, Toner, Sexton, probably leaving people out here, Henshaw. Like, you're not talking about Irish international, you're talking about British and Irish lines, top class, world class international players. You're taking 5, 6, 7 of them out, and maybe another 2 or 3. Fergus McFadden was missing as well.
They had thousands of caps.
There were about 9 or 10 top class players missing, and to be able to cope. So that was a timely reminder to the rest of Europe that we can cope with the injuries, and we're still here, and we can produce the
Leinster Munster final is going to be pretty good.
But this is starting again.
Where are we going? Newcastle. That'll be a good weekend.
Newcastle, that'll be a good weekend there. But it was very impressive from Leinster, to be fair.
Is there a kind of a strange way that we haven't actually given Leinster credit for the mentality with which they approach games like this? Because you mentioned, say, the intensity, which I know is kind of a cliche around rugby teams, but I don't think it's been a cliche around this Leinster team. It's been around meticulous planning and fantastic setup and formation from the likes of Lancaster and Cullen.
But it's accuracy as well, and it's the pace where you do things, and their application is just, it's very quick, and there's loads of energy around the way they do it. So you can kamikaze fly into rucks and for 5 minutes and then get tired and be a little bit off. They just keep a high level of the way they do things all the time, and that's what good teams do. And so
I think it's players coming into form as well. Like, I thought that Van der Fleer was amazing again, but it's like getting even better as the season goes on. And
you think of Sean O'Brien missing, Levy missing, Jordy Murphy goes up to Ulster, you know.
I think as well at 13 it's going to be an issue now when it comes to who the hell plays alongside Gary Ringrose for Ireland. Like, can Chris Farrell play 12? Somebody said no. Will you say no, he can't?
I never said that. I
no,
don't think
somebody else. Can he play 12?
I would imagine so. I couldn't see why not.
You're not the perfect 12?
Possibly, yeah. You probably have
why
to
do you say that?
Well, because like your 13 is supposed to be your defensive mastermind and also this attacking thing. 12 traditionally was, I'm a big lad and I'm going to kill you. Obviously, Darcy was a small lad who could kill you, but
you have a big.
He has the offload out the back of his hand, but he can also pass it both ways. So if we're going to do the reverse move off set pieces to.
Jeez, he's throwing spanners into the works this morning, isn't he?
I would have thought at 12, I would have thought Bundy and Henshaw would have been a good bit ahead of Chris Farrell at 12. Maybe you're right.
They're at the moment. Listen, he's definitely an option. I guarantee you, if one or the other were injured,
Loves Chris Farrell.
Yeah, he's an option there, and he could be a serious option as well. But the others are ahead at the moment. But he needs to play more.
Ringrose is a guaranteed starter.
I just think when he touches the ball, he just offers something different. Ireland play better from an attacking point of view when he's there. He's got stronger. He's reading of the game. At one stage, Colby looked like he was in the clear. Leinster were kind of opened up a little bit. He was running across the field and Ringrose just stayed in his inside and just tracked him, and it was really intelligent defending. He didn't panic and kind of jump out at him because Colby wants him to do that in just steps, and I just think every time he touched the ball, and defensively as well, he's a different class.
Jacob Stockdale, has he got some Jedi mind tricks going on against the opposition that they go one way and the ball goes the other again and again and again?
Yeah, I think the first try was more impressive because he gets put away on the wing, but there's a number 8, Claessens, is coming across, who's a big, strong number 8, and he just bops him off him and just accelerates. Then it's incredible. I just think his strike rate is phenomenal. Jacob Stockdale, and the second try, the bounce, he gets a bit of luck. But you nearly think when he kicks it that he's going to get it. You sense now when he puts one of these dinks in over the top, you think of the one in Twickenham, the All Blacks, this one, and he's done a good few more with Ulster as well. Great footballer.
Feels like the opposition are psyched out.
He got very lucky with that one. There's three Racing
they all
players.
go the wrong way.
But you create your own luck if you put these little ones in there. But there's some sort of there's a stat that I read a couple of months ago that 95% of the time that you kick the ball away in your own 22 with grubbers, if someone is attacking and you put a grubber through, that you don't score, the opposition clear it up.
Yeah.
I think his stat is probably 95% of the time when he kicks it, he scores. He gets it, he gets there. But overall, the Ulster performance was a hugely impressive start. They kind of shocked Racing a little bit, who were missing a few players, but still have a massive squad. And then they're hanging on for dear life. 50, 55 minutes, I think it just changes. But
they're the type of wins that early on they
wouldn't have had,
and also for a new coach, like, it binds everybody together. So Paul Pogba earlier on was talking about the goal was basically because all week they'd been working on the fact that Spurs are weak down the left hand side. So that Pogba's going into that changing room afterwards and going, the work that we did all week showed up in the game and was hugely beneficial to us. That all those Ulster players are going into the changing room afterwards and going, this guy, this head coach, this coaching team, they're setting us up to win the biggest games of the season against one of the best teams in Europe. That's the type of thing that binds everybody together really fast.
If it comes off.
Yeah.
And that's what we hear a lot about Joe Schmidt, is the information he passes on. It becomes evident when they play. And that's how players start to believe in a coach. If you give information that's wrong and you don't agree with, and then you're proved right in the game as a player, that's when it is that disconnect.
Yeah.
So I think McFarland he's obviously, himself and his other coaches have done a job in setting him up right, but also we're mentioning a Munster's selection. In the last couple of weeks and in November when they won the back-to-back games, you kind of saw a team that's gone, this is a good side now. There's a little bit of a better look about that, and they're coping without Henderson as well.
Yeah.
So there's a better look to the side. Now the issue they have, which takes a bit of time, and it's similar to Munster trying to close the gap to Leinster and getting more depth in your squad. Ulster are lacking a little bit of depth and quality. if they get injuries and if some of those frontliners are missing. But they've given themselves a great chance, and the mood in the camp, you talk about United and the mood changing, does it change a mood up in Ulster?
No, totally.
Which is good to see, because they're, it's great to see them back. They haven't made the knockout stages in 5 years, and they've a great chance now going to Leicester at the weekend.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they picked a B team for that one. Just a quick word about Connacht's performance at the weekend as well. Nearly lost this game with a penalty in the last minute that ends up getting kicked to the corner by Sale instead of going for the post to win it. But again, notwithstanding, it's early in a new regime, hard-fought wins at home in this competition, knockout rugby coming their way as well. It's exactly what Connacht needs.
Trying to manage both Europe and the Pro 14 is a challenge, and what Andy Friend has done since he's come in is completely changed the landscape. There's a smile back on their faces, their confidence is good, their skill set, and they're playing with a smile on their face again. You contrast that to 12 months ago where it was all doom and gloom and negativity, and he's completely changed that. So he deserves a massive amount of credit, Andy Friend, for what he's done. He's kept nice and quiet, head down, but you sense and you feel and you hear that there's positivity there. Even when they lose games, they're kind of back to that team. They're not back as good as that team in 16 when they won the Pro 14, but you sense that that's where they're going, that their confidence is high, their attack is brilliant. They're a great side to watch.
Yeah.
And again at the weekend, against a very strong Sale side with a lot of big names in their team, it was a good win. They nearly undid themselves in the end and probably could have been better. It wasn't their best performance, but to get that result and have a chance of, I always thought, Darren, when you're heading off or when this period is over around 5 or 6, that if you can tick the box after round 6 and say we've got knockout rugby in Europe.
Can we stick that table up again? I just have a quick query here, right? So there's a little bit of an anomaly where you can have won 3 games and got your bonus points and be ahead of Connacht, even though Connacht have won 4 games. I just sometimes feel like you win more games.
Yeah, it's the losing bonus point, and their points difference is better. They're 39. If you look at the difference there, they're 39 better. So Sale will beat Perpignan with a bonus point at home.
Yeah.
Connacht have got to go to Bordeaux. I think they're out of it. Bordeaux, will they put out a second team? More than likely. You would hope Connacht get a bonus point. They've both finished in 22, and then Connacht have one more win, and Sale are top in the group. But the bonus point thing makes teams play and keep going to the end as well,
You know the way in the...
you could bring it down to wins. I know what you're going to say.
Well, in the
first,
Six Nations,
and then
you
go
can
to
win the
bonus
Grand
points.
Slam, and you're guaranteed to win it. You get the super bonus points if there's definitely a way to make sure that wins and winning games is more important than losing bonus points. Or anyway, should we come back to that one again some other time when there's less to talk about, because we're going to move on to the depth chart, are we?
We are indeed, yes. We're going to move on to Alan's depth chart. He's been picking Ireland's back row ahead of...
That's not an easy job.
One, yeah.
No, yeah. So basically we've been going through we've done 2 positions already at this point. We had Mike McCarthy on last Friday going through the second row, and Bernard Jackman went through his front row. So we saved your back row until this morning. So we're looking at the first position here, which is 6.
Yeah, well, Peter O'Mahony is the starter, and I think there's a number of guys who can play 6. It's Rhys Ruddock. I thought he was fantastic at the weekend. Sean O'Brien can play 6. Jordy Murphy can play 6, even though he's more of a traditional 7. Jack Conan can play there. There's a load of options there. O'Mahony's the starter, and there's a number of guys then that you can put in right in behind him. Ty Byrne can play 6. He can be an option there as well. But I just think Ruddock, Levy can play 6. It's amazing. There's about 9 or 10 guys there but I think the front runner obviously at the moment is O'Mahony. He's the kind of owner of that 6 jersey.
I'm asking you the same question about Sexton. Do you manage O'Mahony's minutes during the Six Nations in any way, and give other people an opportunity to see how they would get on?
I think there'll be a bit of rotation in the back row. I think there will, yeah, a little bit. But again, you try and tell these guys, well, you're not playing against Scotland or you're not playing against France.
Because we need you for the World Cup semi-final. That's why.
Yeah, but still, Jared, at the end of the day, they don't play as many games as the English or French, and their game management is quite good anyway. Their minutes will be monitored. But I know the point is you want to see someone else in there in a big game if it happens at the World Cup.
Even different constellations, like what would it really look like if we played 2 7s and an 8?
Yeah.
Just like
I think Levy can do that. Van der Fleer and whatever
O'Brien
number 8.
can,
O'Brien can do it as well. Jordy Murphy can do it. O'Mahony can go to 7 if you wanted to. Go bigger options in the back row and stuff like that.
In a way, the most difficult position to pick here is who is the 4th back rower, who is the one who gets on the bench, every week because they recognise that he can play 6, 7 and 8. And is it Rhys Ruddock? Is it Jordy Murphy? Is it Sean O'Brien?
They're all good questions.
Well, let's have a look at number 7 here and see who you've gone for on your depth chart at this position. So Sean O'Brien is leading the way at open side with Josh Van der Fleer behind him and Dan Levy as your third choice.
And again, these guys can all argue and say, well, why are you doing that? And Van der Fleer's the one in...
Screw you, Quinny, they're all saying.
They're Van der Fleer.
Why am I only at 8?
Van der Fleer is the one in control at the moment. He was incredible against New Zealand. He's formed for Leinster's sensational at the moment. And... he's the starter. What about Levy last year? He was incredible.
It was a little ankle tackle, top tackle by Van der Fleer in the middle of the game. It's like,
and Levy was incredible last year. He was just sensational. And on his day, Sean O'Brien, you go back to 17 then and the Lions tour and the way he played there and what he can deliver for Ireland. And that's leaving Jordy Murphy out. So there's an incredible amount of options. Tommy O'Donnell is another one that I think Tommy's a great player. He's been very unlucky over the years. And another era with all these 7s, Tommy could be in contention for the Six Nations, but he's not. And there's a lot of other good back rowers as well. But I think Sean O'Brien, a fit, healthy and well Sean O'Brien, which is something unfortunately we're talking a lot about in recent years, is not happening for him. He's just a different level with his aggression, with his experience, he's achieved.
I was just checking. Marcel Coetzee started at 8, so Jordy Murphy has been playing 7 really.
He has been playing 7, but he can play 8 or he can play 6 as well. And there's loads of great options there, isn't there? If there was, I think going back to the 6 thing, O'Mahony, he excels with the line-out option. Defensively and an attacking point of view, that's what gives him an edge. Obviously, he's really good at the breakdown as well. They all have different strengths. Not many weaknesses now because they're all top-end players, and so there's so many different options you can go with there.
Let's have a look at number 8. I dare say CJ Stander's going to lead the way here. Indeed he does. Jack Conan. And then Sean O'Brien is your third option at number 8.
Yeah, well, I think Stander's the one in command, isn't he? And he's the one who's been so consistent for Ireland in the last couple of years since he made his debut, and it kind of coincided then with Jamie Heaslip having to retire, who'd been there for so long. Jack Conan, to be fair to him, he never lets the side down. He had a brilliant game on Saturday against Toulouse and reminded people what he can do as well. And rotate, bringing over an option like Sean O'Brien or to play at 8, he can do that there as well. And so it's just when you're asking to go talking about back rowers, there are so many bloody options, isn't there?
Well, that's the thing, and I was going to ask you, how do we compare in that position to the rest of the world? You'd imagine that we've got the best back row options in the world at this point.
Yeah, I think I saw someone at the weekend tweeting that the Welsh back rows talking about Thomas Young, the young son for Wasps, that he should be in the Six Nations squad in the most competitive back row in the world. I think Ireland's probably is the most competitive.
Is Wales number 2?
Probably. Well, Lydiate is back playing well for him. Faletau played really well for Bath at the weekend. Tipperick. I think with Warburton gone, I was kind of thinking, is it as competitive for 7? But then Ellis Jenkins, who's also out for the year with a knee injury, had taken over that kind of 7 jersey for Wales. But they have a lot of good options as well. But these guys, they're all internationals. And honestly, if you played any 3 there, I think the one difference maybe is Stander is that he's kind of nailed down that jersey unless he has a really bad run of form.
I think that Joe's going to just decide that I've seen you, deliver for me, and all
it's
the big
harder
games
for
over
Jack
the last-
Conan. Like, to be honest, I'm a fan of Jack Conan's. If he started, I'm thinking no issue with that. But I just think Stander he's gone to a different level. His game has got so much better over the years.
The 7 position is always nailed down by the players fit. They
Whoever's
always
fit, yeah. There's always one or two injured, and again O'Mahony has the edge with the line-out. Like I said, obviously his overall play is really good. They're all brilliant players in their own right. And
do you make the case then, if you're Schmidt, that if everybody's fit at the moment, that actually you keep O'Brien as your sub, because he literally is the only one who can play 6, 7, 8 at the same level?
He could option. It could be a good option there. But you can still start O'Brien, have Van der Fleer or Levy or Jordy Murphy on the bench and rotate it around a little bit there. If you had to switch him to if Stander went off, it is. It's not ideal. But I don't know. It's just such a conundrum. Like Dan Levy, he played at 8 for Leinster, and people are kind of did that away Bath game. Questioning whether he could or couldn't.
Let's give
it's
him
an overall team performance.
And I'd like to see him play 5 or 6 games.
Of course he can play at 8.
Oh no,
Of course he can play at 8.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Quinny. Thanks very much for that.
Sure.
That's your depth chart there. We'll put up all of our depth charts for you, and you can look at them on offtheball.com. Now, let's move on to the NFL. What a weekend it was. Mike Carlson is with us to talk about a bit of an unusual. Maybe it's not that unusual that the best teams blow out the other teams at this stage of the competition. But I was trying to think back in terms of victories in the Belichick era, when there was so much doubt, there was so much suggestion that they were up against the Chargers team, who were brilliant on both sides of the ball. They were coming off a brilliant performance last week. This is as good and as dominant a performance as I can remember.
I think you're right, especially that first half, and lots of it's down to coaching. I can't remember seeing them come into a playoff game with a game plan that much different from what they had been doing, and having it work so well. They looked at what Baltimore had been successful with against the Chargers, because it was basically Chargers defense that had won that game for them last week, and they took elements of that, but offensively they ran what was quite a simple game plan in reality, attacking the Chargers primarily on the right side of their defensive line, which is Joey Bosa, who's a tremendous sack getter, but not the strongest guy against the run. And they had Gronk over there, and they have Trent Brown, who's a 380-pound tackle, and they used them really well to set the run up. And they never stopped passing, even when they had the lead. And you think, okay, now they're just going to settle down with the run. They kept attacking San Diego. I'm never going to stop calling them San Diego, and kept them off balance basically the whole time.
Yeah, we've been talking a good bit about Josh McDaniels and why he would still be getting interviews after jilting the Indianapolis Colts last year at the altar, or even kind of after they were at the altar. And I don't know, it looked like he was pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. The problem with the Patriots, of course, is that you never know how much of the game plan is McDaniels, how much of it is Bill, how much of it is Ernie Adams, the guy who quietly in the shadows does an awful lot of their scouting and game planning of other teams. And I didn't take too seriously McDaniels even going for an interview, which he did in Green Bay, simply for the fact that it seems pretty clear that he's the designated successor to Bill in New England, and that will be the really interesting part if and when Bill ever goes, and if and when Ernie goes with him. How well Josh manages on his own.
Would this be Bill Belichick's greatest ever achievement if the Patriots were to go all the way?
That first one against St. Louis, has to rate as a huge achievement. Putting Brady in the lineup when he had to, and then sticking with him when Drew Bledsoe was ready to come back, and game planning against the Rams, which was one of the great game plans of all time to stop that Rams offense. But I think you're right in the sense that this is, on paper at least, certainly the weakest Patriots team in a number of years, and certainly the one that everyone looked at and said, well, they don't really deserve to be the second seed. They lost 5 games during the season. One was kind of a fluke, but all 5 were to teams that didn't make the playoffs.
The ability that Belichick has to analyse what the opposition is doing and put his team out, it seems really simple to not just have a single style of play and an identity, and yet no sport in the world really does this happen the way it does just for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. They can come out with a completely different game plan week after week, and the players execute it. And part of their roster building involves having guys who are able to cope with that kind of approach. And part of Brady's greatness is not that he's necessarily the greatest quarterback if you put him in any situations, but he's certainly been the greatest one to execute in any number of styles. Over a season, when they had Randy Moss, they were a deep ball team. In other years, they've been a dink and dunk passing team. In some years, they've been a run first defensive oriented team. But even within those years, they will change the game plan. I think there was a game when they had Moss and they went up to Minnesota and they threw 50 times in the game. They barely ran the ball, and then there's others where they won't run at all. I think it's a remarkable bit of coaching, and it's a remarkable bit of consistency, particularly in the NFL, but really in almost any sport nowadays.
But Mike, even yesterday, within from series to series, there would be a series where all they would do is run Sony Michel or one of the others, or throw the ball short to James White, which is effectively a running play. And then there would be another series where all they would do is throw it. Like Brady was 6 of 6 in one of the ones that led to a touchdown before halftime. And even within the same game, they're completely changing what they're doing.
Yeah, and the passing series built off the running series, and then in reverse. And the thing is, they're not afraid to do that. It's kind of like when you talk about balance on TV news or something. Does balance mean that on every single interview you have to have somebody representing both sides, or does balance mean you have to do it over the length of the program itself, or does it mean you have to do it over the length of the whole platform? And I think in football terms, Bill is willing to establish balance, as you say, within sections of the game, and balance can be sometimes you run it all the time, sometimes you don't, and they took advantage, as they almost always do, of personnel. In other words, you put your personnel on the field, the opposition, yet generally the defense generally reacts by putting personnel to match up to yours, but the Patriots are willing to be versatile within those personnel groups, and when Gronk could run faster than I can, they were even more dangerous because you could send him downfield deep. Now he's kind of limited to shorter routes, and when he runs, guys fall off him, but he's not beating them with speed.
Mike, you obviously would have known Bill Belichick for a time in his life. I think you were in college together. I'd imagine, and I'm not sure, but it seems to me that he would have loved and relished this opportunity last night with everybody writing Tom Brady off, but kind of by extension writing his Patriots team off.
Yeah, I mean, and I said it last week, even though I still wound up picking the Patriots for the game, that I thought this was going to be a tough matchup for them. I didn't think they were as good on paper, player for player, as the Chargers. And they're so unused to being in the position of being underdogs. They're very rarely, picked by the bookies to be underdogs in any game. They get a lot of credit for being the Patriots, and Bill does for being a coach, that if they can position themselves in that sense, I think it's absolutely great. They do relish it, and I think it gives them motivation.
What was Belichick like in college?
With me, he was serious, kind of intense. We played lacrosse in the spring of his freshman year, and he was the only player who asked me why I was carrying so many sticks, which was mostly because I was playing all the different positions, but I had reasons for doing that. And he was very intense, but I knew guys who knew him better, and he was a fairly wild guy in terms of university social life.
Wow.
He joined a fraternity which was known on campus as the Lodge, and was basically about as close as you could get to Animal House, I suppose, in terms of a kind of Division III academic liberal arts college.
And what was the USP, the unique selling point of the Lodge then?
Wild, uncontrolled parties was the main thing. It's certainly, when you walked into it, it was certainly you know how Animal House had that decrepit look where everything seemed to be falling off the walls and it was about to collapse? The Lodge was a lot like that, even though the building was made of stone.
It doesn't seem to me that that's the sort of environment that Bill Belichick would have thrived in, but maybe it is. Maybe when he goes into the off-season, he lets himself go.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he puts on a game face and maintains it really well. But you can see when he lets that down just occasionally. But it's all business for him. He grew up in a family where his father was a coach, and he was at the Naval Academy growing up. So when it comes to business, he is all business, and he's the best in the business.
Have any of the books or documentaries ever really captured who he actually is, do you think? Because the two-part of football life is grand.
I've seen.
Yeah.
Although the one on Super Bowl, on the Super Bowl win against Seattle, called "Do Your Job," which I think NFL Films made or ESPN made. But I think that captures the Patriots really well, and his ethos that seeps down to the rest of the team. And I think that was he's a lot more, what would you call it, sensitive than people think. On the personal lives level.
Yeah, okay, that is interesting. The other thing about them being underdogs, they're underdogs for the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and over the course of the season, and given how amazing the Chiefs were and just how controlled they were in terms of their getting stuff done at the weekend, that makes sense. But history also suggests that making the Patriots underdogs at this point after a controlled victory like they just had, also doesn't make sense.
Yeah, to be honest, when I saw that it opened at a 3-point line, I was a little bit surprised because, 3 points basically calls the game a pick'em, because the home team, the bookies normally give the home team about a 3-point advantage. Belichick and Andy Reid is a great rivalry, and neither has the advantage this week of coming off the extra week as they did in their home games last week. The Chiefs are at home. They played earlier in the season. It was a 43-40 game. Where basically the Chiefs simply left New England too much time at the end of the game, and they came down and got a field goal. I think the Chiefs' defense is stronger now than it was in that game, and of course New England is missing Josh Gordon. So I think I was a little surprised, especially when you consider the Patriots this season were 9-0 at home, but they were 3-5 on the road. And all 5 losses obviously coming on the road. So it's going to be a good game, and certainly a better one. But the Chiefs, like the other 2 teams on Saturday, they both, Kansas City and the Rams, handled their opposition relatively well. Which the divisional round is the greatest advantage, I think, in sports, where the better team, at least statistically, gets the week off and the home field advantage, so they get extra time to prepare, to rest up, and all the teams took advantage of it. Even the Saints, who had a close game, but once they settled down, they more or less dominated for the last 3 quarters.
At what point did we start wondering if Patrick Mahomes is going to get affected by the atmosphere just getting a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher? Because
That's a great question. So far, he seems to be coping with it pretty well. And I think a little bit of that has to be Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, probably being a steady kind of force for them. But every game, he just seems to make a couple of plays that pull him, that pull his team out of problem situations, pull him out of a problem situation. And it reminds me a little bit he's a completely different player, but of the young Tom Brady. When Brady stepped in there in that first Super Bowl season, that's what he did. He just wasn't affected by it at all. And what you saw too in those first 3 games of the weekend, all 3 teams just had a huge. I don't normally pay a lot of attention to time of possession, because I think it's more a result of things, not a cause of things. But you had a breakdown of almost 40 minutes for Kansas City, 36 for the Rams, and 38 for New England in a 60-minute game. So if you've got the ball, that's usually because you're winning, but also obviously because you're playing well.
Like, it's got to help Mahomes living in the environment and growing up in the environment that he did, having a father who was a former professional baseballer. Like, the idea of being an elite sports person wasn't all that big a deal in the Mahomes family, so the pressure perhaps wasn't as high as it might have been elsewhere, or the sense of responsibility perhaps wasn't as ingrained as it might have been in other potential stars.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good factor, and as much part of the genetic genetic patterning, whatever, as his arm is. His father threw a very fast pitch, was used to pressure situations, and he would have seen that. I just thought he's just justifiably, I think, the MVP of the season. 50 touchdown passes is what gets you there, because it's such an impressive statistic. But I think all around, when you look at the difference of this Chiefs team and some of the good Chiefs teams that sort of stumbled at a hurdle later in the season, I think there's a lot to point to. Although my personal MVP for the weekend was Aqib Talib of the Rams, who in the week before the game, DeMarcus Lawrence of the Dallas Cowboys said that they were going to take the soul of Jared Goff, the Rams quarterback. And after the game was over and Goff was being interviewed on network TV, Talib stuck his head in front of the camera and said something about effing souls that weren't going to be taken. And to drop the F-bomb on national television makes him my player of the week.
No, he's going to get suspended for life for that. The Rams victory is in many ways actually the most impressive of all of them, because the Cowboys at least did put up a front against them. They did have a defense that was something for the Rams to work out, and the Rams decided that they were going to play smash mouth old school running football with two running backs, not just one.
Yeah, and it is smash mouth. It's not so old school, or unless you go back to sort of single wing days when players would be in motion, going in opposite directions and misdirection. But the Rams, like the Patriots and like the Chiefs, were committed to running the ball in these games. And C.J. Anderson, you just have to feel really good for, because here's a guy who was released by two different teams during the season, was out on the street when the Rams picked him up, and if you remember him from his best days in Denver, he was the kind of guy who was great at recognizing that first hole and getting through it. And Denver's kind of influence blocking. Everyone would block in one direction, and then your runner would cut back against it. Terrell Davis did it. Anderson did it. They had a bunch of guys. They could turn guys into 1,000-yard rushers. And he's just perfectly suited for that kind of running with the Rams. And at no point were they afraid to put the ball on the ground. It gave Todd Gurley a really necessary rest, because they don't really want to overwork him given his continuing knee problems. And I thought it was great that even in the Saints game, when they needed one first down to close out the game, they had a 3rd and 10, and they gave the ball on the ground to Kamara, and Kamara gained 11 yards, and the game was over.
Yeah, it's great that the four best teams clearly are still involved, because there's no team who's fluked a win or had an upset victory. It's like it's guaranteed to be close and good from this point forward.
Yeah, you would hope so. You still have questions overall, say, about the Rams defense, about the Patriots defense, about the Chiefs defense, and even about the Saints defense, although they played really well for three quarters when they sort of adjusted to the way that Nick Foles played. And but I think that makes the games more interesting, because you will get some of that, the potential for some of that shootout factor that we talked about, back in the 54, 51, and 43, 40 days. And that's when defenses, although it surprises you because you think, well, they're allowing lots of yardage or lots of points, but that's where one or two key plays or one or two key drives where you can get a stop become really important.
There's just one other loose end we needed to tie up, Mike, before we let you go. You mentioned the Lodge fraternity earlier on. Was Mike Carlson a member of the Lodge fraternity?
No, actually, fraternities weren't a big thing then, but but they were on their way. Sort of on their way out, because this was the 60s, and that ethos didn't quite fit in. But I did join what was a fraternity, national fraternity that took themselves out of the national fraternity and just became sort of a local club, because the national fraternity wouldn't allow black people or women to join the fraternity. It was fraternities being a band of brothers who just all happened to have the same skin tone. And so I was, quite pleased with that. But in one sense, you wouldn't have found Stork. You probably wouldn't have found Stork or Otter over at the lodge. Bluto would have fit in really well, but Stork or Otter would have fit in better with us. Although we were called, it wasn't the Deke House like the Delt House, the other house. We were Delt. So we were better suited for Animal House, a bunch of losers.
Mike, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Mike Carlson there. You can follow him on Twitter. You can get exclusive access to his stuff on Patreon as well. So those games weren't as close as we promised everybody, but still plenty in them for people to look.
No, we kind of needed the necessary evil of this weekend to ensure that the rest of the season is going to be box office, and I think it's fair to say it probably will be. I know there's only 3 games left, but greatly looking forward to it. If you're not on the bandwagon now is the time.
Yeah. We'll wrap up everything that happened in the GA world over the course of the weekend properly on tomorrow's show in great detail. If you've got anything you want to get in touch with us about, you can just use the hashtag OTBAM. You can keep an eye on offtheball.com across the day for everything else that's going on in the world of sport, and of course details about what's coming up on the radio on News Talk this evening with Joe. Off the Ball is back from 7 o'clock, the football show and Monday Night Rugby. That's your lot today. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow.